What's up, friends? Welcome to Leaders, Letters, and Legacy alongside Dr. Marianne Calle. I'm your co-host, Scott Fussell, and we are thrilled you decided to tap play and spend some time with us today. We'd love it if you would consider Leaders, Letters, and Legacy a verbal archive for many of the stories and the people who have shaped the fraternity sorority movement for the past 2+ centuries. It's time we shine a light on leaders. It's time we help them write a love letter about their letters. It's time we talk about the legacy we want to leave behind. It is time for another episode of Leaders, Letters, and Legacy. Let's go.
And I think that's how you've built your life, right? You've only you have been very thoughtful in the environments that you've chosen to invest your talents and your time and your treasure as a part of. And I've been fortunate enough to watch that, and you've encouraged others. So I'd like to go back to something that you said earlier, that philanthropy was really what brought you back at a different age and stage, right, of your engagement. TriDelta's been involved in childhood cancer fundraising, research, fundraising for years and years and years. But in 1999, a partnership developed with St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. And there was a reason why, and somewhere along the line, there's a little boy that you also helped to find his dreams in a different way. Can you share that story with us, if you don't mind?
Yeah, absolutely. You're thinking of Juan. I'm thinking, yeah. Do you know, when I went back, when I was invited to speak when we first met Marianne at St. Jude, I was a little afraid. I was a mother of 2 small kids, and I knew that I was going to see not only the TriDelta volunteers that were going to be raising money for St. Jude, which I wanted to support, but I knew I was going to be seeing in the tour of the hospital families just like mine and kids just like mine in the most awful circumstances any parent can think of. And I was so surprised when we did that hospital tour, and I was left with a feeling of uplift, elation, hope, love. And I said, oh my God, as long as I live, this is a place I'm going to support individually, collectively with TriDelta, all of that. And so when I moved to Phoenix, I was approached. At that time, I was a leader at Philosophy. I was approached to be the corporate chairman for St. Jude here in the Walk, getting corporations to, bring their people and funds into making money for the organization. And I did that, I think, 2 or 3 years. The first year when I spoke right after a little boy, Juan, who was at that time about 10, and I was probably about 50. But Juan and I had this connection. We got each other like right away. He was witty, he was funny, and we just developed this friendship. He came into our family, his mother, his brother Javier, and we just became the best of friends. Juan didn't have a father in his life, and I don't want to say my husband stepped in that role, but as Juan was getting ready to drive, Monty was the one who was offering to help him. Juan successfully beat his cancer, I believe it was twice, very serious form of brain cancer through St. Jude. His family, his mother and brother, carry a same gene that contributes to cancer. His mother's already faced it. And Juan sadly passed away at the age of 15. And that boy has become my reason for supporting St. Jude when they were saving his life, and my reason for continuing. And I will all the days of my life because of the brave way he lived his life. He never complained. He just told me, I want to be a boy. I just want to be a boy. He didn't want to be a St. Jude patient. He loved the people there. He was appreciative, but he just wanted to be a kid. And I've since forged relationships just through volunteerism with a number of St. Jude families. And one of my best little buddies now is in high school, Bridget. And Bridget just had her St. Jude checkup. And she's coming home to do a travel volleyball tryout. She's been on the travel volleyball team, and she's without one leg. And this kid inspires me. We're putting on a garage sale together in a couple months or next month to benefit St. Jude. And I just love her spirit, and I love contributing to her story. One was tough. You can hear it. It's tough for me still to talk about it. And then I met your beautiful niece. And, if my job is to uplift and support, and that's my life mission, well, then if people extend themselves to me and they're in that situation, parent or family, I want to help them through what would be one of the toughest times I think any human being can face. So it's just a way of using my talent a different way.
Well, but I think it all ties together, right?
Totally.
Emily, my niece, who was a St. Jude patient, Emily's 8 years, cancer-free, very rare form of leukemia, worked for St. Jude, now works for Make-A-Wish. When she traveled to Phoenix, she wanted to meet you. And I was surprised that y'all had never met before in person because you had such a connection. You know, so many people ask, why do we stay involved or why do we still care about this thing called sorority or fraternity? And your journey keeps bringing you back to that 17-year-old young woman, girl at that point, probably, who made a decision. And
Yeah.
Chi Delta keeps pulling you back, in so many different ways, whether it's working with our board, using your professional talents in your business now, or it's volunteering for St. Jude or speaking or continuing to mentor our young members. Who would have ever thought that a sorority, right? Because people always ask me, do you still play with your sorority? I'm like, well, lifetime and I didn't know what that meant then, but I did make a promise, and it was
Yeah.
probably the first promises that I made that was my own. It was my promise. And I tell students all the time, I think sorority and fraternity may have been for many of us the second big choice we make. If we go to college, we make a decision where to, right? And then we make this commitment at such a young and vulnerable age to something we don't really understand that well. But it
True.
grows with us if you choose to at least allow it to be some part of your life. And I wonder today, Heidi, if you were really intimately working with a chapter or a group of young women or men, you could have worked with your son's fraternity,
Yeah.
how how would you guide them? Because right now it's a complex time. We can look online, type in fraternity and sorority, and every negative story is going to pop up. And we know that there are mistakes. I always say, I'm just glad there wasn't social media and cameras with phones. I mean, phones with cameras, because they're under a microscope all the time. They can't just have those vulnerable moments, are those moments where they make a mistake and they're judged for the rest of their lives because somebody caught it on, you know, on a screen or on a video or whatever. How would you influence, or how do you influence when you have those opportunities?
It's a moment because I am the first to tell you that I grew up in a time that was in many ways idyllic when I look back on it. There were ups and downs, of course, but the sorority experience for me was a very wholesome experience. My business experience, people mentored me. I worked my way up. So I lived in kind of I don't know, maybe a protected place. Maybe not. Maybe I was just more positive. I don't know. It's hard to know looking back. But I know when I'm asked to talk to collegiates today, because I spoke to the collegiates at UC Davis, I do believe in being very straightforward with them. When I spoke to the group at UC Davis, it was for an anniversary, the 50-year anniversary, and they asked a number of presidents in the past to speak, and I did. The group decided not, the group organizing the event decided, and I'm not going to judge this at all, not to tell the alumna attending that the group was on probation, something that would be unthinkable in the time that I was there. We were the academic leaders. I mean, I think it would have just upset so many people. But what I did was I made my way. There were only 5 members from the chapter that were allowed to attend. And I made sure I made my way to speak to as many of them as I could. About how important the sorority had been to me and how I hoped that they could really make the most of the friendships there and the foundational opportunity they had to grow, over time. I can get rather stern, and I think the sorority experience and the fraternity experience today has its major challenges. We had alums that were in our chapter all the time. You never wanted to make Mrs. Normington mad, or, Betty Tubin. You didn't want to make them mad. They had standards and we had to follow them. I know a lot of people today are not as involved in the chapters, but as I look back, I think that was a big difference. And I'm so thankful for the alums that are a part of it, but I wasn't one of those people. So I understand why some people aren't there. A lot of them were full-time moms, but I do think that many of the men and women have lived into a stereotype. And I've heard parents reinforce that stereotype. Oh, my son just got hazed. Unacceptable. And I have no problem stopping somebody and saying, that's not what this is all about. But there's a glorification sometimes in bad behavior. And that's not why I joined. And it's why I don't think a lot of people join. But I think there is a need to, and I don't know the exact answer, to turn around and not live into a stereotype that is not what we should or have ever wanted to represent. Our founders would not be proud of that.
I agree. And Scott's on Beta Theta Pi's national board. He and I talk about the challenges today, and I think you hit the nail on the head, is that there is a stereotype that's being glorified. I can't blame it on social media. I think it's the way the messaging has been shared, right? And I think that as we move forward, if we want to still be relevant, we have to change those perspectives. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do this podcast, was because we wanted to hear, it's one thing for me to stand up. I work in the industry, but to have someone like you, you've had 2 children go through the process. You've had your own experiences. You've seen the good, the bad, and the other. And I think this is an important conversation for us all to have, to say, we're better people because of it. I always say, I don't know who Marianne would be at 19 years old. I was a little late, but I said yes to a sorority. And, when I think about the work you do and the folks that you have influenced, it's remarkable to think that at 17, Tri Delta's path crossed with your path. And I would hope, and I would believe, just in having known you, that Tri Delta's values matched your values, right? And allowed you to lift up into those values. And that's who you are. That's how you've lived your life. What would have happened had you not crossed paths with Tri Delta? How do you think your life might have been different? Or would it have been?
What I think might have been different is because I was thinking about what I got out of the 4 years, and there was so much that could be a long podcast, but the thing I got out of Tri Delta that I would have missed, friendship, all those things are constants, was the leadership opportunity. I, was in positions that were lonely in New York, where I was leading, making decisions, global decisions. And there was a loneliness there that most executives understand and you have to live with and get comfortable with. Tri Delta gave me the launch pad. Those were people at the time that believed in me through when I was recruitment chairman or president, and encouraged me to bring out my best. So I got to practice being a leader. When I was a field representative, I got to practice getting to know North America. I would have missed that because people would say to me, oh, Canada, it's just the same as the United States. Oh, no, it's not. And my Tri Delta experiences exposed me to people where I understood, for example, we're not a United States of America. We are a series of continents with very different countries, very different cultures, and that's a good thing. The diversity is a good thing. I would have missed major market research about what it meant to lead North America had I not had Tri Delta. Would I still have made friends? Yes. Would I still have been a good leader? Yes. But I was a better leader because I had performance metrics I had to hit in recruitment, number of awards on campus. There were metrics that I had to hit just like I did in the corporate world. And I took them seriously and I wanted to win with my sisters. I would have missed an unbelievable internship that I don't believe any other internship could have given me.
It's very much a leadership lab.
It's a leadership lab.
We'll be right back. Imagine a world where kindness leads the way. Introducing Service, a mission to grow through giving, to uplift others, and to make a lasting difference. Service is about more than helping. It's about creating a ripple of care in your community. It's about showing up, doing good, and living a life that puts others first. Because the greatest growth happens when we give of ourselves. Let's do as much good as we can for as long as we can for as many people as we can. Service, kindness in action. And now back to the show. Well, Heidi, you said you went to school at 17 and you left your family of origin and you went and found a family of choice at 17. And then if we continue to show up and we continue to say yes, that family of choice just continues to grow and you're just living it every single day. And it just comes through so beautifully in how you talk about it. I gotta just hit a couple things. And as we start to wrap up here, you talked about young people are living into a stereotype. But Mac asked a question and you sort of talked about living into the values. Like when you first showed up on the front porch at Tri Delta, it's like, yeah, our values were incongruent. So you got to live into, instead of living into a stereotype, you got to live into values that complemented yours, that you'd grown up with. With the way you've redefined beauty, the way you are helping others discover and be accountable to their talents, I'm sitting here and I'm just, this is the most tweetable conversation I've had in a minute. And I feel like this has been we just talked about being a leadership lab. I feel like this has been a leadership lab for me. And I am just so very grateful that you said yes to Tri Delta when you were 17, that you said yes to St. Jude when they asked you to serve in whatever way you could serve, that you keep saying yes to Tri Delta, and that you said yes to us in this conversation today. I just, I know that Marianne and I both are lifted because of this. And my goodness, I can't wait to share this conversation with so many others. This is why we started this podcast. So we could shine a light on people like you, your stories, and kind of the love letter that you've written and continue to write to Tri Delta. So gosh, no, we're grateful.
And Heidi, tell our listeners if they wanted to work with you, what would that?
Yes.
Where could they find you? Or, I mean, because I know there are people that are going to be listening to say, I need to work with Heidi Guest. So where would they find you? And where is this next phase leading you?
Yeah, well, it's funny. You're seeing a work in progress right now. I left the beauty industry in May because, as time goes on, you have different goals. And I kind of see this as my third chapter. So I thought, what do I want to do? What can I do until I'm 80? Because I'm workaholic.
Third chapter, Tri Delta does everything. Tri Deltas do everything in 3. So
yeah, we do everything in 3. So here's this third chapter. And the work came to me. And ironically, right before I made the decision to leave beauty, Tri Delta came knocking. And Marianne, you remember I called you. And I couldn't take what they wanted me to do with strength-based work because of my other commitment in beauty. Well, I made the decision, or the decision was made for me. And what happened was I called Tri Delta back up and said, I'm available. So off I went. So I've been doing this new business and not doing the website like you do in the beginning, and not doing all that because I've been working steadily with individuals and organizations. The business will be called Forte, like your strength, Forte Advisors. But if you want to reach me, HeidiGuest@gmail.com is the best way to do it right now.
We love that. I do miss hearing your voice and seeing you on QVC with Philosophy Products, but I am so grateful that you are back in this world where we have access to you.
Yes.
I know that the lives that you are going to continue to impact in a beautiful way is your calling. So thank you for being with Scott and I today. I hope that whoever has spent time with us today, that you really sit and you rewind to listen to Heidi's amazing just nuggets of information and
Yeah.
thoughts of, how can we all live into those gifts and those talents that we have. So thank
Yeah.
you, Heidi. We appreciate you. Scott, you want to close this out?
Yeah. Heidi, I heard you say earlier that uplift and supporting others is your mission. And I got to tell you, if that's the mission, you are executing on it beautifully. That's what you've done for us today. That's what you've done for everybody that's going to take a second to tap play on this podcast, and for all the people that you continue to help uncover their strengths and then to unleash their greatness. So very grateful for the way that you are offering your gifts and helping other people lean into theirs. So grateful for this time and all you continue to do. And we can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, I'll be back anytime you'd like. And thanks for providing this forum for people. I think it's a very important one to look at people's stories and how fraternity kind of provided a foundation to their launch and then their relaunch and relaunch and relaunch. So I'm excited for what you're doing. And I'll be telling my friends. I'm a big talker, so I will tell my friends about what you're doing too.
Spread the word, spread the word.
We will be back in touch. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Heidi.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Today's show was hosted by Dr. Marianne Kale and Scott Pucell. For more information, please follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also follow Dr. Mac and Scott on social or on the web at mariannekale.com and scottpucellcoaching.com. Thanks again for tapping play and joining us for another episode of Leaders, Letters, and Legacy. This has been a Mac and Fuzz production.